Before we close here, just a few of the many, many different notes that I've received from girls around the country. More of this, yay, woohoo, and less, are you listening? I wish they would say, seeing you every day makes me happy. Spend more time with me. I want to hear you're not a burden. I want to hear, I don't want you to change. I wish instead of what grades did you get? They'd say, I'm sure you did amazing. I want to hear that sounds exhausting, or it's okay to fail, or you tried. You're doing amazing. I'm so proud of you. So, this just gives you a little bit of an idea of what we're not saying, and kids are longing to hear from us. Quick heads up that I teach a Writing to Heal workshop to help us figure out how our own stress is affecting our kids. And these are just some of my books, and this is it for me.
Donna, that was outstanding. So much information, so many takeaways. I'm going to get right into it, and Amber's here too. Please enter your questions in the Q&A of the chat. What I really valued so much, you have some of the, more recent, like for me, grew up in a time where ask questions. Can you talk about that? Why we don't want to ask questions and we want to
Well,
listen first?
yes. So it's appropriate when kids are really little to ask them questions. You skinned your knee. Does it hurt? Wait, let me take a look. Are there some rocks in there? What would help? Do you need a hug? Do you need a snuggle? But as kids get older, they need us to morph from being that judge, jump in, fixer, detective, and be more of a cheerleader. But we don't know what to cheerlead if they aren't talking to us. And we don't know what's wrong. We don't know what's really happening. The number one thing I hear from parents is, I wish she would talk to me. And when I hear that, I know that it's never too late to help make that happen, because later I hear from parents, wow, our conversation in the car on the way home was really, really powerful when I used some of these techniques. We're trying to remember to do things that are neuroprotective and help the developing brain to feel safe, seen, valued, known, and to wire up for resiliency.
Amber, I know you have a question. Thank you, Donna.
I have one, and there's also one in the chat. But I'm so excited to be practicing already the card chat when I pick up my daughter for track today. Okay, so from our chat, you mentioned strategies that help kids cope with stress. So can you elaborate on what those are and how we can model and teach them?
Right. So the big things that we want to be doing with kids to help them cope with stress, the first thing we want to do is really ask ourselves, all right, do they have the skills that they need? Are their emotions in proportion to what's happening around them? And if the answer to that question is no, then that tells you they have more coping skills for the stresses that they're facing, right? So that's the first signal. And then we have to be able to talk to young people about what their brain needs. It might need to go talk to somebody and off gas all of the feelings and vent what they're really feeling. They may need more time in nature. They may need just a break. A lot of kids tell me they just really miss those pajama days, right? Like when everyone stayed in their pajamas and did puzzles all day. We don't even have those anymore with kids. And they need to be able to assess, sure, what my brain needs. What does my body need? That might look like lots of movement. It might look like deep breathing. It might look like meditation or going out and kicking a soccer ball, right? And what does my heart need? What does my heart need? It might need more time face to face with grandma or friends, or being able to turn to themselves with self-compassion. So there are hundreds and hundreds of skills that we can teach kids. We don't have time for them all today. But first, we need to assess, are they coping or are they not coping with the stressors that they have in an appropriate way? And ask them to go inside and assess, What does my brain need? What does my body need? What does my heart need? And strategize with them to come up with answers. Because I can guarantee you one thing, if you come at them with, let's sit down and meditate right now, or I think you need to go run around the block, that is not going to work. It needs to come from this questioning, this conversation that we have with them.
Uh, in your book, Donna, what was most surprising when you started this research? What did you say? Oh my gosh, I wish I'd known that earlier. Or what do you really want people to know that they don't already know?
Well, number one, really be compassionate with yourselves, because parents today are beating themselves up terribly. We're just being inundated with advice on how to parent, and we are being too soft on them, we're being too hard on them. And I discovered that moms ruminate more about their kids than dads do, right? They spend more time ruminating, worrying, beating themselves up for not being a great parent. And in some ways, all the parenting advice that's out there can really serve us. It's great. It's wonderful. But we're also living in an era where moms especially report feeling that they're not good enough. They're not doing a good job. So I really want to underscore for parents, you are doing a great job. Every single group I talk to, if I ask them, what do you love most on earth? You know what they say. My kids. Kids aren't feeling that. They aren't feeling that. And for all the reasons we talked about. So be compassionate with yourself. It isn't going to help if you take this information and you start using it to, like, I'm going to say this, I'm going to do that. You're doing a great job. Stressors have ramped up and we can do a little better, but be nice to yourself and judge yourself as doing better every day simply by trying.
You talked a lot about regulation. If we are not regulated, if we are in, and certainly children know how to push our buttons. And so it's all, it's not, it is possible to regulate yourself. So then talk about why in that moment they can't possibly access any kind of lesson or judgment. Why is that?
Well, the brain is wiring up to be hyper vigilant around evaluation and criticism and finger wagging. This begins before puberty and during puberty. It's why, you see the kids start to care more about what their friends think than what you think. Because that evaluation, that finger wagging, that judging, their brains are wiring up to be very, very sensitive to that as they go through this period of puberty. And so we have to be very, very sensitive to know that what might have been funny to a 6-year-old is not funny to an 11-year-old. I think of one girl who wrote to me, jokes aren't funny, they hurt, right? Like all of those little things that might have been okay to get away with younger kids, those moments where we were like, wait, get in the car, blah, blah, blah. The brain has changed, right? And so we have to really relearn our language, especially as puberty is happening earlier and earlier and earlier. And it's actually, there are ways to help you do this. Here are a couple of tricks. One is, while your child is talking, instead of thinking about what you're going to say, ask yourself, does my heart feel connected to his heart in this moment? Your brain starts to calm down and your child can literally feel that shift in you, right? Also, you don't have to be staring right into your kid's eyes all the time when having conversations. Sometimes around this age, that can feel like, oh my God, what's coming? Kids can read your faces intimately. They've been watching your face since they were, the first moment out of the womb. Try to have that Botox brow where you just don't have a lot of creases going on in your forehead, but don't worry about it too much. Just come back to, is my heart connecting with my child's heart right now? And if it isn't, what do I need to do to make that happen? It might mean that you need to take a minute and excuse yourself and say, I'll be right back in a minute. Got to run to the bathroom. It might mean that you need to do a little bit of deep breathing. Here's another trick. Look for the waterfall in the room. By the waterfall, I mean, look for the most beautiful thing, the light coming through a tree, the dancing leaves through a window, the light on your child's cheek. We all just love our children's faces so much. That takes your brain out of evaluation mode and into presence. So we can all find that most beautiful thing in a moment. Often it's something that we're not seeing because we're so busy worrying and jumping in.
You've got a couple of questions about social media. I know you get them all the time. Um, and I loved what you said about having them spend some time. How did you feel after that particular period of time or that particular app? I love that. So the questions are: what do you think about teenage boys' preference to spend time playing video games with their friends, either in person or just on conference calls? And then there's another one about the difficulty of just limiting it. So those are two questions there.
We want to limit all of it. I know that sounds really hard, but again, if you think of what we're learning, that the brain is really wiring and firing up with the good things that are happening in the environment, and those are face-to-face connection, that none of what we just mentioned is face-to-face connection. So we want to really hold off on when these things enter our kids' lives, because again, this time between childhood and adolescence is a crucial, crucial bridge for development. A lot's happening in the brain. So we wanted to see if we could change some of that and have in real life sleepovers and in real life family plus family camping trips and in real life running clubs and in real life family hiking. So the more we fill our lives with those moments of real connection, sometimes we want to make sure that our kids, when they're really interested in something, they like to code. Hey, the Pentagon has programs for kids who like to code. They love to make films on their, on their little iPad or whatever, or borrow your iPad or on your phone. Great. They're making a little Lego film. Let's get them into a real life situation where they're with other kids who like to do that at their age. So let's be age appropriate. Let's be in real life. Let's use our time in that way. The longer we can hold back on some of these online forces, the more we are protecting their neurodevelopment.
Donna, you want us to act when your child walks in the door like your puppy asks, right? Acts when you walk in the door. And I think that remind ourselves of that. Okay, you're in an elevator and you're going, it's a very tall building, and you can see you've got a parent and you are desperate to share your research. What are you going to say in that elevator ride as you go to the top floor from the basement?
We have really good research that children's brains are wiring and firing up differently than they did in the past, and in a way that is more likely to lead to the kinds of depression and anxious behaviors and feelings that we most definitely do not want for them. And that means that we as the adults need to change and up our game. This is not your parents' generation. You are doing everything right. You are a wonderful parent, but you need to up your game for the life that they are living in. And they feel like they can't tell you how difficult today's world is for them. That's it.
They can't tell us how difficult their life is. We need to up our game for the life that they are living. We need to listen to what they're telling us. Things like, I don't want you to change. I'm sure you tried your best. I so find those positive moments. There's so much here that we have to come back at 7 o'clock and hear it all again, Central Time, and make a phone call, text someone. You don't want to miss this talk. Donna, thank you so much. Already, I can't wait to host you next year. But everybody, come back at 7. Thank you so much. This is where we hug the kids, and we will when they
Yeah.
come home soon. Okay.
Hug them,
Thank you.
hear them, and hold them.
Say it again.
Hug them, hear them, and hold them.
Oh, I love that. Hug them, hear them, and hold them. Thank you, Donna. Thank you, everyone. Outstanding information, just wonderful. Believe them when they say that they're struggling. Somehow we have to let them know that we get it. But that is just so hard, so hard. So tell me how I can get out of my own head to be there for my child.
Yeah, so we talked about the importance of our being able to bring our stress levels down, and that we want to be able to do that because when we can't or we don't, we know that our kids read it. So here are some different tricks that parents can use. If you need a break during a conversation because you're getting activated, take the break. It is always better to take the break than it is to be reactive. Just say, hey, I have to go to the bathroom. I'll be back in a minute. Or, hey, I just need a minute. This is so important to me. And I want to say and do the right thing because I love you so much. And I just need a minute. If you know that you're going into a conversation that's going to be difficult, take some time beforehand to regulate yourself. That looks different for everybody, but of course, some deep breathing really can help. Also, using regular times during the day when you meditate. Meditators have a better control over their self-regulation. We also want to make sure that when we're with kids and they're talking to us, that we're looking for not just what kind of eye contact are we having. What I ask parents to do is ask yourself if your heart is connecting with their heart. Are you connecting? Do you feel that you're putting forth a sense of heartfelt connection for this, your child? So that can really help regulate your body very, very quickly. And really, my favorite, what I use all the time, because I do have kids too, folks. I look for what I call the waterfall, the most beautiful thing in the room. And to me, that can be anything. It could be the flicker of light on the tree outside the window. Often it's the way the light is hitting my child's face. And when we get to that sense of observation for the broader world, something flips in our brain. We move out of what we think of as the flashlight mentality, which is we got a flashlight, we're shining in on this problem and this conversation, and we're pretty tense, to what we call a lantern-like consciousness. And that immediately brings down our stress level. It could be the light in a room. It could be a photograph that you have on the wall. It could be anything. Find the most beautiful thing in the room and then bring your attention back to your child. So these are all little things that we can do to regulate ourselves right in the moment. Other people use a wonderful technique, which is to think in that moment, and I use this myself, of those older, wiser people who were there for you when you were struggling. Imagine them in your mind. I call them our benefactors. So for me, I'll just be personal for a minute. My father died in a family tragedy when I was 12. And life was really, really difficult after that. But he was really a very loving, attuned parent with a lot of wisdom. He was also a writer, by the way. And I still channel him in my head. And if I'm getting reactive, I think of how loved I felt when I was with him. And I exude that love to my child. So channel those moments in your own life where you felt seen and safe and known and loved and valued. And that is all that our kids are asking for. They want to be held emotionally, they want to be heard verbally, and they want to be hugged.
Beautiful. Mila, I know you have a question.
Well, and there's a great one in the chat that I wanted to, it's sort of my question too. How do you get boys to talk? And I'll follow that up with, if they talk about something that maybe isn't what you think the problem is that conversation still helping them kind of work through their issues? If that makes sense.
Sure, in a couple of ways. So I'm going to say three things. Number one, a lot of times boys do better when we're side by side. So you're in the car driving, or you're out in the field kicking the ball, or you're sitting there together watching, a game or a TV show. or working on a project side by side. When kids are little, of course, you're building Legos together. There's a lot of spilling that happens over Legos for little boys. So sometimes we want to just be side by side so that they feel more comfortable spilling. And number two, it is okay. It is perfectly okay to say, hey, I wonder if something more is going on here. And I know how important it is for me as an adult to not sweep things under the rug. And one of our family values is to not sweep things under the rug. So maybe there's something more going on here. I'm not sure, but I'd really like to know. And if you could come back to me and we could talk at another time, that would be great. Just think about it. Don't expect in that very moment that they're going to go, yeah, something much deeper. I feel this and that, and also this. Give them a break to reflect on that. Set it as a family value that you don't want to sweep things under the rug, and then invite them to take their time and come back later and then say, hey, maybe we could have another conversation like this next week. So set that as a value, give yourself a point to return to. That can be very helpful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Here's a question about social media boundaries. What types of media are considered social media?
Oh, well, social media is TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook. Kids won't touch Facebook with a 10-foot pole, but nevertheless, it is included there. I don't even think Tumblr. Am I leaving anything out? I think I might be. But yes, all of that is what we're talking about when we talk about social media. All of those platforms which are driven by popularity algorithms. Yes.
As we close here, I am the parent of a 13-year-old boy and a 13-year-old girl. What is it that I don't know that I need to know?
That you matter so deeply to them. Kids tell me they love their parents so much, and that we sometimes forget how very much that they would love us and want to be close to us. I didn't have time to share all, 1,000 Post-it notes, but I hear it all the time. Spend more time with me. I really love my mom. I don't want to disappoint her. I wish we had more time together as a family. So know that you are so loved. They value you so much. Kids write to me and they say, I really have trouble showing my mom how much I care about her. Don't take it personally. They wish that they had the skills to show you the love that they feel. They know it, that they are acting sometimes in a way that makes you feel, yeah, okay, this kid does not appreciate me. That is the role of mothers from the beginning to the end of time. It's nothing new there, but don't take it personally. They love you so much, and have the courage to work on yourself with self-compassion, to look at your own story. And whether it's things that happened in your childhood or for you as a young woman, or all of the adversities and stressors that you face right now today, our unaddressed, unprocessed stress load is a blockage to having the conversations and connection with kids that they are longing to have with us.
Your comments about the constant stress, this is a takeaway for me. I have to be aware this is constant, this is new, and because of that, I may, as a parent, even if I have a younger child, I may be feeling that I may be the recipient of all of that. And as you say, it's not about me.
That is so exactly right. It is not about you. The world is so friggin' stressful for them. They don't feel like we get it. They don't feel like we understand. They don't feel like they're able to tell us about it because their brains haven't wired and fired up yet to handle it, much less articulate it to us. We're trying to rewrite this conversation for this generation.
Beautiful. So much for us to take away from this hour that we had with you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. And you reminded me, we're going to hug them. We're going to hold them. We're going to hear them. Thank you
Thank you
so
very much.
Fabulous. Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening. Let's go do that right now. Thanks.